Did you know that a staggering percentage of IT projects, some studies say as high as 70%, either fail to meet their objectives, run over budget, or are canceled outright? I mean, just imagine pouring countless hours, brilliant ideas, and significant resources into a system that never sees the light of day. Or worse, becomes a kind of digital white elephant, draining resources long after it really should have been put out to pasture. The digital world doesn't run on magic, it runs on systems. And learning to design them successfully starts right here.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're embarking on what I think is a crucial exploration for anyone studying BCIS 3389, your course on systems analysis and design, or frankly, for any business student looking to make a real impact in the world of information systems. We're zeroing in on Chapter 4 of Valacich and George's Modern Systems Analysis and Design, the chapter titled Identifying and Selecting Systems Development Projects. Our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear: to arm you with the strategic insights and the practical tools needed to not just identify viable projects, but to really champion those that truly deliver value.
And, align with an organization's mission. We'll unpack why some projects get the green light, how those decisions are made, and what it truly takes to build a compelling case for your digital initiatives. Before we dive deeper, though, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this deep dive with your fellow students and maybe future colleagues. You really won't want to miss the insider tips and real-world examples that could genuinely position you for a bright future in your chosen career. And remember, for additional resources, definitely check out the description below. Okay, let's unpack this. Before we can even think about building a system, designing anything, we need to know what problem we're trying to solve, right? Or maybe what opportunity we're chasing. This all starts with something called project identification. But what does that really mean, beyond just having a good idea?
That's a great question because it's far more than just a flash of inspiration, like you said. Project identification is really the initial fundamental phase in project management. It's where potential projects are recognized and, importantly, systematically defined. Think of it as the aha moment, but then immediately followed by a rigorous validation process.
Okay, so not just the idea, but testing the idea.
Yeah, exactly. It's about asking, is this a genuine problem we're seeing? Is this a truly open opportunity? And maybe most importantly, how does it fit into the bigger picture of the organization? It involves gathering information, doing some preliminary feasibility studies, evaluating potential solutions, basically ensuring a proposed project is both viable and truly relevant. This really lays the groundwork. It ensures those precious resources, time, money, people, aren't wasted on initiatives that won't genuinely contribute to the organization's success. And, for project identification to be effective, it absolutely must be rooted in a clear understanding of the organization's overarching strategy. Without that connection, you're essentially sailing without a compass, just adrift in a sea of potential but ultimately unguided initiatives. This is where corporate strategic planning comes in. It's not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing, dynamic process that defines a company's fundamental existence and its path forward.
So it's not just about what a company does, but digging deeper into why it does it and where it's trying to go. Is that the idea?
Precisely. At its core is the mission statement. And this isn't just some, flowery paragraph for the website. It clearly defines what business a company is in simple, unambiguous terms. Valacich and George give that classic example. Courtyard by Marriott's mission in lodging for business travelers. It tells you exactly who they serve and what core need they address. Simple, clear.
Okay.
Following the mission, we have objective statements. These are those broad and timeless goals that outline a desired future position. They can be qualitative, like aiming to be a market leader, customer satisfaction maybe, or quantitative, such as increasing earnings growth by 10–15% annually, or boosting return on equity by 15–20%. These objectives provide concrete, measurable targets without getting bogged down in, immediate fleeting details.
Got it. So mission is the what, objectives are the where. What about the how?
Right, the how. That's the competitive strategy. Valacich and George describe 3 generic strategies, plus a powerful hybrid. First, there's the low-cost producer. Think competing primarily on offering products or services at the lowest possible cost, like a discount airline. But here's where it gets interesting, and where projects sometimes go wrong. Many companies think they're pursuing low cost, but then they start adding features, blurring their focus.
Scope creep even at the strategic level.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah?
Second, product differentiation. This focuses on capitalizing on unique product criteria. The market wants maybe innovative features, maybe superior customer service. Think of a luxury car brand. The insight here, again, is how often companies think they're differentiating, but their unique features are actually pretty common across competitors. Your project selection needs to figure out which strategy is actually being pursued, not just what's written down somewhere.
Okay, so low cost, differentiation. What's the third?
Third is product focus, or niche. It's similar to differentiation, but with a much narrower market focus, serving a specific specialized segment, maybe a company that only makes software for, I don't know, a particular type of scientific research. The challenge here is not getting too niche and losing scalability.
Right.
And then there's the really powerful best cost provider strategy. This tries to combine both low cost and upscale differentiation, offering more value for the customer's money. It aims for that sweet spot where quality meets affordability. But it's often the hardest one to actually execute well. Understanding these basic organizational models, how a company defines itself and its path, is absolutely critical. This kind of foundational understanding is a core skill you'll develop, much like applying basic organizational models, which you'll encounter as KO2 in your BCIS 3389 course. Every single project you propose or work on has to serve this higher strategic purpose. It needs to align with one of these competitive strategies to truly move the organization forward.
So, okay, if the corporate strategy is our North Star, like you said, how do we make sure our IT projects aren't just orbiting aimlessly? How do we ensure they're actually pulling us towards that star? It feels like having a powerful engine, but if it's not steered correctly, you'll just end up nowhere useful. That's a critical challenge, isn't it?
It absolutely is, and that's the essence of strategic alignment. This isn't just a nice-to-have suggestion. It's a top-down process. It truly empowers organizations to deliver strategic outcomes by prioritizing the right projects and allocating resources efficiently. Think of it as ensuring every single cog in the machine is turning in the same direction to achieve a common goal.
Makes sense.
Misaligned projects, frankly, are a drain. They're a drain on resources, on morale, on the organization's bottom line. They're those digital white elephants we talked about earlier. In larger organizations, the Portfolio and Project Management Office, or PMO, plays an increasingly critical role here. They help translate this high-level strategy into standard, actionable criteria for project assessment and prioritization.
So the PMO acts as a kind of translator between strategy and execution.
In many ways, yes. PM Partners highlights 5 fundamentals for strategic success that really bring this alignment to life. They're all important, but let's zoom in on a couple that are often the trickiest in practice. First, executive alignment. This isn't just getting a signature on a form. It means ensuring your project delivery functions are totally synced up with the executive vision and goals. The challenge: building strong relationships with sponsors, with stakeholders, understanding how performance will actually be measured, and conducting regular reviews, like quarterly business reviews, to stay on the same page. Without this constant communication and alignment, even the best technical project can just flounder because it loses support.
Right, the connection breaks down.
Exactly. Second, and this is often a major pitfall, is project prioritization and selection. The PMO's job, ideally, is to translate strategy into a standard set of criteria to assess individual projects. Are we focusing on strategic contribution, affordability, feasibility, risk, ROI? The real insight here is that you must have clear, consistent criteria to compare and select initiatives. It prevents conflicts, it prevents politics overriding strategy.
It keeps it objective.
Hopefully, yes. Without these, selection can become very political, not strategic at all. Third, and perhaps most brutally honest, is the allocation of resources. This is where scarce resources, talent, budget, time are channeled to opportunities that add the most value, not just to projects that are politically favorable or, championed by the loudest voice.
The squeaky wheel doesn't always get the grease, or shouldn't.
Shouldn't, ideally. And finally, monitoring performance isn't a one-time check. It's continuous, gauging strategic performance across the entire project lifecycle. This allows organizations to rebalance their portfolios if strategic shifts happen. Skipping any of these steps is, like you said earlier, like trying to build a house on sand. You absolutely need to know your ground before you start constructing anything significant. Now, even before you can start the steps of identifying a project, there are some foundational prerequisites. Skipping these is like, well, the house on sand analogy works well. The structure will inevitably fail. You need that solid foundation. While there are many, let's highlight a few absolutely critical ones. First, a clear organizational strategy and objectives is paramount. Your mission, vision, values, strategic goals, they provide the essential context for any project. Without them, you don't know what you're building towards. You might be busy, but not productive.
Just spinning your wheels.
Pretty much. Second, a thorough needs assessment. This means actively soliciting feedback from internal folks, from external stakeholders. What are the specific challenges, the pain points, the opportunities your organization faces? The pitfall here is assuming you know the need without genuinely asking. A project has to address a real need, not just a perceived one.
Okay, that makes sense. Talk to the people involved.
Definitely. Third, feasibility analysis is just non-negotiable. This assesses the technical, economic, operational, and organizational viability. Can we actually build it with our current tech stack? Can we afford it? Will our operations handle the new system or process? Will the organization actually adopt it? Culture matters. Failing here means a guaranteed project failure down the line, even if you get it built.
Wow, yeah, you have to think about the whole life cycle.
Absolutely. This preparatory work ties directly into understanding and applying project management methodologies, which is a key part of KO5 for your course. And crucially, many of these prerequisites culminate in documented analyses, papers, reports, presentations. These justify your project's existence and clearly articulate its value proposition. This directly demonstrates your ability to communicate these concepts in writing, which is a vital W1 skill. You need to be able to make the case clearly and convincingly.
Okay, moving into section 2. We often hear about, data breaches, systems that just don't talk to each other, or projects that seem to drift aimlessly, costing a fortune. Why is effective information systems planning so crucial in today's landscape? It feels like sometimes we're constantly playing catch-up, just putting out digital fires instead of building something solid.
The need is more pressing than ever, you're right. And frankly, the consequences of neglecting IS planning are severe. Historically, the cost of information systems has just risen steadily. It's approaching 40% of total expenses in some organizations. That's a huge chunk of change.
40%. Wow.
Yeah. But beyond the raw cost, many systems suffer from really critical flaws. They often can't handle applications that cross organizational boundaries. This means different departments, sometimes even different branches of the same company, struggle to share vital information effectively. Silos everywhere.
Right, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing digitally.
Exactly. Worse, many systems don't address critical business problems holistically. They might support only a small slice of an issue, rather than the strategic applications that could transform the entire business. We face rampant data redundancy, the same data stored multiple times in different places. This leads to confusion, errors, and a general lack of confidence in data quality. Users just don't trust the numbers they're seeing.
Which makes decision-making really hard.
Impossible, sometimes. And the maintenance costs for poorly planned legacy systems, they're skyrocketing, constantly draining budgets just to prop up aging, inefficient digital infrastructure. Application backlogs can stretch for years, leaving end users incredibly frustrated. And what happens then? They're forced to create their own incompatible systems. Spreadsheets, little access databases. This leads to what Valacich and George call the Winchester syndrome. Remember the Winchester mystery house?
Vaguely, yeah. Staircases to nowhere, doors opening onto walls.
Exactly, a chaotic, unworkable mess built without a coherent plan. That's what happens to an organization's IT infrastructure without intentional, systematic IS planning. It's a complete breakdown in digital functionality and a massive waste of resources. It's truly a digital tragedy waiting to happen if you don't plan properly.
So how do we avoid becoming the Winchester mystery house of IT?
We counter this digital chaos with information systems planning, ISP. It's an orderly means of assessing an organization's information needs and then defining the systems, databases, and technologies required to satisfy them. It's basically a strategic roadmap for your digital future. And it typically follows the three-step process, according to Valacich and George. First, you assess current IS-related assets. This means taking a detailed inventory of everything you currently have: your human resources with IS expertise, the data you possess and its quality, the processes that your information systems support, and the technology's hardware, software currently in place. It's essentially understanding your starting point, your existing capabilities and limitations.
Okay, step 1. Know thyself, digitally speaking.
Precisely. Second, you develop target blueprints. Based on your organizational objectives defined during that corporate strategic planning we talked about, you envision the desired future state for these resources. What kind of data do you need to collect? How should it be structured for maximum value? What processes should your systems enable to improve efficiency or create new opportunities? What new technologies will empower you? These blueprints are your ideal future state, clearly aligned with the organization's mission and objectives.
So that's the destination on the map.
Exactly. And finally, the third step is to define scheduled projects. This is where the rubber meets the road. You outline a series of concrete, actionable projects that will transition the organization from its current state, identified in step 1, to its desired future state. the target blueprints for Step 2. This step turns the vision into a tangible plan with specific initiatives, ensuring every project contributes meaningfully to the larger IS strategy.
So there's the big picture, the strategic view, and then there are the day-to-day operational needs, the things people need fixed now. How do these different perspectives influence our planning? Does one always take precedence, or is there a dynamic balance we should strive for?
That's a great question, and these different perspectives give rise to two primary approaches to IS planning: top-down and bottom-up, as discussed by Valacich and George. Top-down planning attempts to gain a broad understanding of the information system needs of the entire organization. It starts with the corporate strategy, identifies what information is needed at the highest levels, and then cascades down to define the systems that support that.
So strategy first, system second.
Right. The advantages here are significant. You get a broader perspective, which often leads to improved integration across departments. You usually get stronger management support because the initiatives are visibly linked to executive goals. And there's generally a better overall understanding of how IT serves the entire enterprise. Projects identified this way often have a clear strategic organizational focus. Think like a new company-wide analytics platform aimed at improving market insights.
Okay, that makes sense for big picture stuff. What about bottom up?
In contrast, bottom-up planning identifies and defines IS development projects based on solving operational business problems or capitalizing on business opportunities, often right at the departmental or user level. These projects are frequently identified by end users or specific departments who are grappling with daily inefficiencies or see immediate opportunities for improvement in their own area.
So more reactive to immediate needs.
Can be, yes. Think of it like this. Top-down is building the city plan first, then the houses, making sure all the infrastructure connects logically. Bottom-up is building houses as needed, maybe where people are complaining the loudest, and hoping they fit together later.
Hoping being the operative word there.
Exactly. While bottom-up can be very responsive to immediate needs, a purely bottom-up approach can easily lead to isolated, incompatible systems, more of that Winchester syndrome. Therefore, a balanced approach that combines the strategic guidance of top-down planning with the practical insights of bottom-up identification is often the most ideal for holistic and effective IS development. You need both perspectives. And to truly bring this strategic alignment to life, to visualize how everything connects, we need tools. Valacich and George introduced what they call planning matrices. Think of them as like X-ray vision for your organization's information flow. They help you see connections you might otherwise miss.
Okay, X-rays. Sounds useful. How do they work?
A crucial technique used with these matrices is affinity clustering. This is where you arrange the information in the matrix so that clusters of highly related data are grouped together visually. For example, let's say you have 4 functions, maybe production, scheduling, fabrication, assembly, and finishing. And your matrix shows they all heavily use the same core data entities: work center data, equipment specs, employee records, work order details. Seeing that cluster immediately tells you something important. It suggests these areas work very closely together or rely on very similar information.
So maybe their systems should be integrated.
Exactly. It strongly hints that their subsystems might be developed simultaneously or ideally as one integrated system to ensure seamless information flow and avoid costly redundancy.
So these matrices aren't just pretty diagrams. They're actually uncovering crucial connections that could make or break a project's design.
Precisely. They're indispensable tools for a systems analyst. Valacich and George identify several key types. You've got location-to-function matrices, showing which functions happen where, unit-to-function, outlining relationships between departments and business functions, and then you move towards strategic alignment with function-to-objective matrices, showing which functions are essential for achieving specific goals. But the real challenge with these isn't just, drawing them up. It's getting accurate inputs from diverse teams who might not even realize how their daily work connects to others or to the bigger picture.
Right, getting people to talk and share that information accurately.
That's often the hard part. This is where you directly apply basic systems concepts, something you'll delve into with KO3. Visualizing these relationships is really a precursor to designing those UML diagrams. For instance, understanding a process-to-data entity matrix, which shows what data is captured, used, or updated within each business process, directly helps you outline how activities flow, what data they interact with, and what users actually do.
Okay, I see the connection.
This is a foundational step for what you'll learn in your BCIS 3389 course. Creating activity diagrams, that's SO2, which map process flows, class diagrams, SO3, which model data entities and their relationships, and use case diagrams, SO1, which describe user interactions with the system. These matrices provide the raw material and the critical insights you'll need to create well-structured integrated systems designs. The practical challenge is often not the concept itself, but getting the right people in a room to accurately map these complex, interconnected realities.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. The world is increasingly connected, right? Systems are rarely just confined to internal networks anymore. What unique considerations pop up when we're planning for internet-based applications, especially compared to, say, an internal intranet or even a restricted extranet shared with partners? It feels like a whole different ballgame.
You're absolutely right to highlight that distinction. When designing for the open internet, your concerns broaden significantly. You're dealing with a much more diverse, much less controlled environment. Valacich and George point out several key factors that demand special attention. First, you have user identification. On an intranet, users are typically employees, right?
Yeah.
They're already authenticated, known entities. On the internet, who exactly is the user? Are they internal, external, authenticated with credentials, or completely anonymous? This fundamentally dictates how you handle security, personalization, access controls, everything.
Yeah, you don't know who's knocking on the digital door.
Exactly. If you get this wrong, you're potentially open to all sorts of security issues, or you deliver a terrible user experience. Second, connection speed is a huge variable. Internal users usually have high-speed, stable network connections provided by the company. Public internet users, however, they'll have vastly varying internet speeds, from fiber optics at home to maybe slow mobile data in a remote area.
Right, could be anything.
This directly impacts your design choices. How many rich graphics can you use? What about video or complex interactions? How fast will pages load? You have to design for responsiveness and efficiency across the slowest anticipated connections, or you'll just lose users out of frustration.
Impatience is high online.
Very high. Third, the access method changes everything. Are users accessing your application via a traditional desktop browser, a mobile phone, a tablet, maybe even a smart TV these days? This dictates your interface design. It necessitates responsive layouts that adapt, or potentially even separate mobile applications, to ensure a consistent and usable experience across all devices. And finally, perhaps most critically, are the security concerns. A public-facing application on the internet naturally has a much higher attack surface compared to an internal system. This requires robust security measures baked in from the absolute outset. Strong encryption, rigorous authentication protocols, constant monitoring for threats, protection against a wide array of cyber attacks. These considerations aren't optional extras. They're absolutely integral to the planning and ultimate success of any internet-based application. You ignore them at your peril.
All right, section 3. From idea to approval. We've got great ideas, maybe we understand the strategy, we've even mapped out our systems. But the reality is, like we said at the start, not every brilliant concept gets built. Why is that? What holds back a truly innovative idea from becoming a tangible project, even if it seems perfect on paper?
Yeah, it's a tough reality sometimes. Fundamentally, it comes down to finite resources: time, budget, personnel, equipment. They're all limited. Organizations simply cannot develop all proposed systems, no matter how brilliant or innovative they might seem on the surface. This is why project selection is so critical. It's the systematic process of classifying and ranking potential projects, and then selecting those most likely to yield significant organizational benefits given the available resources. Think of it as an economic reality check, really.
A necessary filter.
Exactly. Projects deemed inconsistent with objectives, maybe redundant in functionality with something else already planned, or perhaps simply unnecessary right now, are removed from consideration. It's a constant balancing act. You're weighing chasing short-term gains that might offer quick wins against investing in long-term strategic goals that could truly transform the organization. And crucially, as business conditions change, new competitors, new regulations, new tech degrees, the relative importance of any single project can, and often does, substantially shift. A project that was top priority last year might be secondary this year due to new market dynamics or unforeseen internal challenges. It's fluid.
So how do organizations make these tough calls? What criteria do they use to sift through all the proposals?
Well, ideally, they use a set of established criteria to objectively assess each proposal. This helps ensure decisions are data-driven rather than based purely on enthusiasm or, worse, internal politics. Valacich and George highlight several core factors, and understanding how they interplay is key. While all are important, let's focus on a couple of critical ones that often swing the decision. First, strategic alignment is paramount, as we've discussed. How well does the project actually help achieve the organization's strategic objectives and long-term goals? If it doesn't clearly support the mission, it's much less likely to be selected, no matter how clever the underlying technology might be.
Strategy rules.
It should. Second, and this is often overlooked in the initial excitement, is resource availability. How much and what type of resources, financial, human, technological, does the project require? And crucially, are they actually available right now? A project might be perfectly aligned strategically, but if you don't have the skilled staff available or the budget isn't approved, it's effectively a non-starter.
Reality bites.
It does. Third, technical difficulties risks. This evaluates the level of technical complexity involved and the likelihood of successful completion within the given constraints. A highly risky project, maybe using unproven technology, might be deferred even if it promises high rewards, especially if the organization's technical expertise isn't quite there yet or the risk tolerance is low. These three, strategic alignment, resource availability, and technical risk, often form a critical triumvirate that can make or break a project's chances during selection.
Okay, this all sounds very analytical, very structured, but how do you actually document your argument for a project, especially when you need approval from, say, an ITS board or senior management? You can't just walk in with a good feeling and a vague idea, right?
Absolutely not. That's where you build a robust business case. A project proposal, embodied in a business case, is a formal document. It outlines the objectives, the scope, the timeline, the budget, the overall plan, and it's designed specifically to convince stakeholders to approve and support the project. It defines why the project is necessary, how it will be executed, and what resources are required. The Mississippi Department of Information Technology Services, for instance, has a really comprehensive business case workbook for IT projects online. It serves as an excellent guide for structuring this crucial document.
So it's the formal pitch.
It is. Its primary purpose is to secure approval, clearly define goals and deliverables, demonstrate tangible value, and, most importantly, be thoroughly backed by research and data. No hand-waving allowed. The MSITS workbook outlines key sections that make for a compelling business case. While there are many, let's focus on the sections that often demand the most scrutiny from decision makers. You must start with the current situation and business need. Describe the problem or the opportunity that drives the project. Critically, this must address specific business needs, like improving public health outcomes, creating more efficient government services, lowering operational costs, improving customer service, or maybe fulfilling a legislative or federal mandate.
Got to link it to a real business driver.
Absolutely. The pitfall here is defining a purely technical problem without linking it clearly and explicitly to a tangible business need. Nobody funds tech for tech's sake, usually. Then the proposed solution follows, detailing what the solution is and how it will be delivered. Critically, you then lay out project goals and objectives. These need to be specific, measurable targets derived directly from that business needs you identified. If your goals aren't smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound, your project lacks direction and credibility.
SMART goals, classic but essential.
Totally essential. Now, no project is without its challenges, so you explicitly list known risks and any dependencies on other projects or external factors. A powerful section, and one that often gets overlooked but can be very persuasive, is the impact of no action taken. What are the consequences of not pursuing the project? Missed benefits, growing organizational pain. This creates a sense of urgency.
Right, the cost of doing nothing.
Exactly. But the true powerhouse of the business case, especially for management and finance folks, is the project cost resource estimate summary. This provides detailed 5-year life cycle costs, breaking down both one-time expenses like hardware, software, initial consulting, staff time, and ongoing expenses like maintenance, ongoing consulting, operational staff time.
The total cost of ownership.
You got it. And critically, the cost-benefit analysis return on investment, ROI, provides the quantitative justification. This includes calculations for anticipated savings, costs avoided, the actual ROI percentage, and the payback period, how long until the project pays for itself. This directly addresses your ability to apply basic economic models. That's KO1. It also encourages discussion of qualitative benefits, acknowledging that not everything valuable can be easily quantified in dollars.
Good point. Some benefits are softer.
Right. Finally, you must include alternatives to the proposed solution. What other options were considered and why were they rejected? This demonstrates thoroughness and due diligence, clearly communicating all these complex findings in a written format, effectively choosing and applying the right analysis tools for a given case that's a cornerstone of your writing outcomes, WO1. As a systems analyst, you need to build a convincing story backed by facts. Now, about appraisal. Project appraisal isn't just a one-and-done event you do at the beginning. It's really a continuous process throughout the entire project lifecycle. Think of it like a GPS for your project, constantly providing valuable insights at various stages, helping you navigate towards your destination successfully. The first crucial appraisal happens before the project even begins. It's a feasibility appraisal during early planning. This is your initial reality check to ensure the project is truly viable, that it aligns with your business goals, and critically, that you actually have the resources available. It prevents investing time and money into something doomed from the start.
So it's about checking your map and your fuel before you even start the car, right? Makes sense.
Exactly. Then, planning the path ahead involves another appraisal during the detailed planning phase. Now you have a clearer roadmap. You fine-tune everything, ensuring alignment with those initial goals, and proactively addressing identified risks before execution even begins. It's about refining the route.
Okay.
Once the project is actually in motion, you conduct appraisals at key milestones to keep things on track. This assesses progress against the plan, looks at resource usage, identifies any unexpected challenges that have popped up. It allows you to pivot or adjust early before small problems snowball into big obstacles. These are like checking your directions periodically on a long road trip.
Course correction points.
Right. For longer projects, a mid-project reality check might involve more regular check-ins, perhaps monthly or quarterly, depending on the project's length and complexity. This is where you step back slightly to evaluate. Are we still on track? Are resources being used efficiently? How's the team doing? Is morale okay? It's a chance to make significant course corrections if needed and ensure you're still heading toward overall success. And finally, there's the post-mortem appraisal after the project is completed. This is crucial, but sometimes skipped when everyone's rushing to the next thing. This is where you reflect honestly on what worked well and what didn't. Did we achieve the goals we set out? And most importantly, what lessons did we learn for future projects? It's about ensuring continuous improvement for your next journey.
Learning from successes and failures.
Absolutely. You learn just as much, maybe more, from the things that didn't go perfectly. And just as there are many facets to a business, there are many lenses through which you can appraise a project. A truly comprehensive evaluation looks beyond just the financials to understand its full impact. Project Manager highlights several types of appraisals, and using them together gives you that holistic view you need. We won't detail every single one, but let's look at the spectrum. You've got the financial project appraisal. This focuses squarely on the project's financial viability. Will it generate enough revenue or savings to cover its costs? Will it deliver a good ROI? This is about the dollars and cents.
Well, bottom line.
The bottom line, exactly. But you also need a strategic project appraisal. This asks how well the project aligns with the organization's long-term goals, its mission, its vision. Does it help enter new markets? Does it enhance competitive advantage? A project might be a financial winner, but a strategic loser, meaning it pulls you away from your core mission. In that case, it might still be the wrong project.
Interesting tension there.
It can be. Then you have technical project appraisal. This evaluates whether the project is technically feasible. Do we have the tools, the resources, the expertise needed? Can we actually build this thing with what we have, or are we biting off more than we can chew technologically? And an operational project appraisal assesses the project's practicality in day-to-day operations. Once it's built, does the organization have the capacity, the infrastructure, the trained staff to actually support it and run it effectively post-launch? Often, technically brilliant projects fail operationally because the existing infrastructure or user readiness just can't handle them.
Yeah, the build it and they will come fallacy.
Exactly. Finally, a legal and regulatory project appraisal is crucial. Does it comply with all applicable laws, regulations, industry standards? Are there potential legal risks we need to mitigate? Think data privacy laws, accessibility standards. By using these diverse appraisal types, project managers get a much more holistic understanding. It improves the likelihood of success and helps avoid costly mistakes by looking at the project from every conceivable angle.
That's a lot to consider. Okay, what are some of the go-to methods and techniques, the actual tools that project managers use to conduct these appraisals and turn all this analysis into actionable insights? Give us the real-world tools.
You're right, it is a lot, but these techniques provide a structured way to understand a project's viability and impact, giving project managers concrete tools. The most fundamental is probably cost-benefit analysis, CBA. This compares a project's total expected costs with its total potential benefits, both tangible and intangible, if possible, to determine its overall financial worth. Is it worth doing? Within CBA, several quantitative tools are commonly used. Net present value, NPV, is a big one. It calculates profitability by finding the difference between the present value of future cash inflows and the present value of cash outflows.
Present value, that accounts for time, right?
Exactly. A positive NPV indicates value creation. The key insight here is that NPV accounts for the time value of money, meaning a dollar today is worth more than a dollar tomorrow because of inflation and opportunity cost. It gives a more realistic picture than just adding up future benefits. Then there's the internal rate of return, IRR. This is the discount rate at which the NPV of a project equals zero. Essentially, it represents the project's expected effective annual rate of return. If the IRR is greater than your organization's required rate of return or hurdle rate, the project is considered financially viable.
Okay.
The practical challenge with IRR sometimes is that it can yield multiple values for projects with unconventional cash flows, like alternating positive and negative flows, which can be confusing. So NPV is often seen as a more reliable metric in those cases, and the payback period is much simpler. It just calculates the time it takes for the project's cumulative cash inflows to recover the initial investment. A shorter period typically means lower financial risk.
Quickest path back to break even.
Right, but the limitation is that it completely ignores profitability after the payback period, and it doesn't account for the time value of money either. So it's useful, but incomplete on its own. These are all powerful economic models you'll learn to apply, that's KO1, to justify IT investments.
Got it. Financial tools? What else?
Beyond pure financials, a feasibility study provides that comprehensive evaluation of a project's overall practicality, looking across technical, economic, operational, and legal dimensions. It's your thorough investigation before committing significant resources. SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats is another classic. It helps identify internal strengths and weaknesses and external opportunities and threats that could impact the project. It gives you a balanced view.
Useful for strategy.
Definitely. The real power of SWOT isn't just listing items, but in using it to strategize. How can we use strengths to seize opportunities? How can we mitigate threats related to our weaknesses? Similarly, PESTLE analysis looks at broader macro-environmental factors: political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental. This helps you anticipate external risks and opportunities that are outside your direct control but could definitely affect the project. And for assessing risks and uncertainties in more detail, especially financial ones, Monte Carlo simulation is a powerful statistical technique. It simulates project outcomes thousands of times based on varying input conditions, like cost estimates or task durations having a range of possibilities. This helps predict the likelihood and potential impact of different scenarios, giving you a probability distribution to outcomes rather than a single guess.
Wow, that sounds complex but powerful for risk.
It can be. Mastering these techniques means you're not just guessing. You're applying concrete methodologies, that's KO5, and economic models, KO1, to make informed decisions. And again, your ability to present these analyses clearly, detailing the calculations for NPV or the strategic findings of a SWOT analysis in writing, will be a cornerstone of your communication skills, WO1, as a systems analyst or business leader. You need to tell the story the data reveals.
Okay, Section 4, navigating decisions. With all these complex factors, multiple criteria, risks, appraisals, how do project managers keep their heads straight? How do they make good decisions consistently when the pressure is on and maybe opinions are flying from all directions? Is there a secret playbook or some kind of magic formula they turn to?
Well, while not exactly a secret, there's certainly a toolkit. Decision-making models. These are systematic frameworks designed specifically to guide individuals and organizations through complex choices. They're absolutely critical in project portfolio management because they simplify the process. They break down big, hairy decisions into manageable steps and use specific criteria to guide the choice. This approach enhances objectivity, which is crucial when stakes are high and opinions might vary wildly based on perspective or, let's be honest, personal agendas sometimes.
So they bring structure to the chaos.
That's a great way to put it. Think of these models as a structured way to avoid analysis paralysis on one hand or purely impulsive reactions on the other. They bring method to the potential madness of complex decision-making. And the benefits are really clear. You get improved consistency in decision outcomes over time, enhanced efficiency by streamlining the process itself, and ultimately, usually better outcomes because all critical factors are systematically considered. These models also increase accountability because the decision process is transparent and documented. They can improve forecasting by helping project managers anticipate problems and devise mitigation strategies earlier. And of course, they enable more efficient resource allocation, ensuring time, budget, and personnel are assigned optimally based on rational criteria.
Makes sense. Are there different types for different situations?
Yes, absolutely. These models are versatile. They can be applied to strategic decisions that define the long-term direction of a project or portfolio, operational decisions that affect day-to-day project activities, and tactical decisions involving things like resource allocation or prioritizing tasks. Let's look at 7 top decision-making models that every project manager should probably be familiar with, drawing from those PM3 insights. First, you have the rational decision model. This is your classic, logical, step-by-step approach. Define the problem clearly. Identify and weight the decision criteria. Develop potential alternatives. Evaluate them thoroughly against the criteria. Select the absolute best option.
The textbook approach.
Pretty much. You'd use this for complex decisions with high stakes, where you have the time and resources for a really thorough analysis, like deciding on a new enterprise-wide software system, an ERP or CRM. There you've got multiple vendors, tons of features, varying costs, complex integration challenges. It demands methodical evaluation.
Okay, so that's for when you can take your time and really think through every angle, almost like a chess grandmaster planning moves ahead, right? But what about when time is short, which it often is?
Exactly like that chess analogy. And for those times when you don't have infinite time or perfect information, we have the bounded rationality decision model. This was developed by Herbert Simon, who won a Nobel for this work. This model acknowledges that we're often bounded by time constraints, the information available, and even our own cognitive capacity to process everything. So instead of seeking the perfect optimal solution, you simplify the criteria. You search for viable options until you find one that meets a minimum threshold of acceptability. You select a satisficing solution.
Satisficing. So good enough, not necessarily perfect.
Exactly. It's about finding something that's good enough for the immediate need, rather than spending potentially huge amounts of time searching for the absolute, theoretically perfect solution, which might not even exist or be practical. This is ideal when you have tight deadlines or limited resources. For example, choosing a temporary cloud storage solution for immediate project needs, when the ideal, perfectly integrated long-term solution would take months to procure and implement. It's pragmatic.
Got it. Practicality over perfection sometimes. What else is in the toolkit?
Then there's the Vroom-Yetton decision model. This one is really interesting because it focuses specifically on the optimal level of team involvement in a decision. It provides a framework, almost like a decision tree, to help managers decide when to make decisions independently, autocratic, when to consult with the team before deciding, or when to involve the entire group in a consensus-based decision.
Ah, so it helps decide how to decide based on the situation.
Precisely. You use this when team dynamics and participation are critical for the success and buy-in of the decision. For example, deciding on a new team workflow, or adopting a new development methodology. If the team isn't committed to the new approach, it's likely to fail, no matter how good the decision seems on paper. Getting the right level of involvement up front can prevent a lot of headaches down the line. Next, we delve into approaches that lean more on instinct, but crucially, instinct backed by experience. The intuitive decision model relies heavily on gut feelings, instincts, and personal experience, often bypassing detailed analytical processes.
Just going with your gut.
Sort of, but it's usually an educated gut. This is typically used in high-pressure environments where speed is absolutely critical, and it's most effective for highly experienced decision-makers who have a deep contextual understanding built over years. Think of an experienced cybersecurity manager making an immediate judgment call during an active system breach based on recognizing patterns from years of similar incident response. You wouldn't want a junior analyst relying purely on intuition in that scenario.
Right, experience is key there.
Definitely. Closely related, and perhaps even more common in technical fields, is the recognition-primed decision model, developed by Gary Klein. This model blends intuition and analysis. You assess the current situation, try to match it to a familiar scenario or pattern from past experience, choose a feasible course of action based on what worked before, mentally simulate the likely outcome briefly, and then act decisively. It's about rapid pattern recognition leading to action. This is often used when rapid decisions are needed, but with a reasonable degree of certainty, in high-stakes fields like emergency services, firefighting, military operations, or even network troubleshooting. For example, a seasoned network architect quickly diagnosing and resolving a sudden network outage by recognizing the pattern of symptoms and applying a known fix from a similar past event.
That sounds like a fascinating blend of gut feeling and learned experience. It's not just random guessing, but educated intuition put into a process. What if you need to come up with something completely new, though, when past experience doesn't apply?
Great question. That's where the creative decision model shines. This model is essential when you face challenges that require genuinely innovative and unique solutions, where the old ways just won't work. It involves processes like brainstorming widely, encouraging divergent thinking, developing alternatives through creative exploration, and evaluating options based on their innovative potential, not just their immediate feasibility. You'd use this when traditional solutions are proving ineffective or when you need out-of-the-box thinking. Classic examples are in new product development, designing novel marketing strategies, or like the example given, designing a novel user interface for a new mobile application to make it stand out in a saturated market. It requires exploring unconventional designs.
So embracing creativity is part of the process.
Exactly. Finally, the consensus decision model. This model focuses heavily on group agreement and cooperative efforts. The process involves gathering input from all relevant participants, discussing options openly, actively identifying areas of agreement, negotiating differences respectfully, and ultimately reaching a decision that everyone involved can genuinely agree on and support. This is particularly valuable when the decision significantly impacts all team members, or when team harmony and collective commitment are absolutely critical for successful implementation. Think of a cross-functional project team needing to decide on the scope of a major new feature that will affect development, marketing, and customer support. Getting collective buy-in from the start is vital there. Understanding and knowing when to apply these different decision-making models is a direct application of project management methodologies. That's KO5 again. As future leaders, these aren't just abstract theoretical concepts. They are practical tools. They will allow you to navigate complex challenges effectively, whether you're managing a small team project for a class or eventually a multi-million-dollar IT initiative in your career. Knowing how to decide is often as important as the decision itself.
Okay, moving into Section 5, Success Beyond Launch. We've identified a project, planned it meticulously, made our decisions using these models, maybe even built the system. But how do we actually know if it was successful? What does project success even mean for an information system? Is it simply launching on time and under budget, or is there, more to it than that?
That's a profound question, actually, and getting the answer right is absolutely critical. Information systems are just so crucial for contemporary organizations. They often act as a key competitive differentiator, especially in what's often described as a VUCAA world: volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. In this kind of environment, the capacity to effectively create, maintain, and update IS features is fundamental to innovation and even organizational survival.
So being good at IS is being good at business now.
Increasingly, yes. Therefore, evaluating IS projects assumes critical importance. Think about it. You wouldn't invest millions in constructing a new building without rigorously assessing if it actually met its intended purpose after it's built, right?
Of course not.
The same logic applies, or should apply, to our digital infrastructure. Measuring project success goes far, far beyond just the initial launch metrics like time and budget, though those are important too. It's fundamentally about whether the system truly delivers the promised value and impacts the organization in a meaningful, positive, and sustainable way over time. Did it solve the problem? Did it capture the opportunity?
So the real measure is long-term value.
Absolutely. And having clear models and methods to evaluate project success provides immense benefits. These evaluation frameworks enrich every stage of the project lifecycle, not just the end. While the specific advantages listed in the sources are many, let's maybe zoom in on 3 that I think are absolute game changers for ensuring project success and continuous improvement. First, these models are vital because they support data-driven decision-making. Instead of relying on gut instinct, anecdotes, or maybe the loudest voice in the room, evaluation models provide objective data. This helps improve future strategic planning, better resource allocation for upcoming projects, and identifying genuine opportunities for improvement based on past performance. This helps prevent creating those digital white elephants we talked about.
Right, learning from actual data.
Second, evaluation models are crucial because they enable consistent project comparison and clarify objectives. Imagine trying to decide between funding 2 very different projects without any standard way to measure their potential impact or likely success. It's impossible. These models help define and organize objective performance measures and criteria, allowing you to compare apples to apples, or at least apples to oranges in a structured way, when allocating scarce resources. More importantly, the process of defining evaluation criteria often helps identify, define, and align project goals more clearly in the first place. It can even alert stakeholders to missing or incomplete objectives before you start building. You simply can't hit a target you haven't clearly defined and agreed upon how to measure.
So it brings a much-needed layer of objectivity and clarity to what can often be a subjective and even political process, especially during planning.
Exactly. It forces those conversations up front. And third, these models are powerful because they support multidimensional evaluation and continuous learning. True project success, as we said, isn't just about budget or timeline. It's about technical performance, stakeholder acceptance and adoption, the quality of the product or service delivered, and the organizational benefits realized long after the initial launch. Good evaluation models consider these various dimensions. They help identify weak spots during the project, track performance against the real goals, and critically facilitate communication and organizational learning. They help disseminate knowledge about what worked and what didn't, promote exchange between teams, and aid in reflection for future improvements. This ensures every project, successful or not quite, makes your organization smarter going forward.
That continuous improvement loop is key.
It really is. But, while these models are invaluable, no evaluation model is perfect. It's really crucial to be aware of their limitations, to use them effectively, and avoid misinterpretation or placing too much faith in a single number. For example, many models discussed in research still require further research for robust empirical evaluation and refinement, particularly regarding things like how to accurately weight different criteria, handle prioritization conflicts, and manage conflicting stakeholder objectives fairly.
So the science is still evolving.
It is. There's often a risk of imprecision or lack of accuracy, especially with qualitative measures. Subjectivity in scoring, sensitivity to potentially biased input data, or unclear definitions in qualitative assessment levels can lead to judgments that feel objective but might actually be quite imprecise. Garbage in, garbage out still applies. A significant challenge highlighted in the literature is limited experimentation, sample sizes, and data availability. Many studies proposing new models lack extensive real-world testing in ongoing complex projects or lack sufficient sample sizes to confidently generalize their findings to other contexts.
Need more real-world proof.
We do. Also, models often need adaptation to specific organizational contexts or project types. A model designed for large infrastructure projects might not work well for Agile software development without significant tweaking. And some sophisticated models can be computationally intensive or require specialized expertise, making them impractical for smaller organizations or less complex projects. But perhaps the main insight, a key takeaway from the sources on evaluation, is this. Evaluation must consider not only performance during the project, the classic time, budget, scope, but also, and perhaps more importantly, the significant impacts post-project. This is absolutely fundamental for confirming the actual achievement of the expected benefits that justify the project in the first place. It's about measuring the long-term value delivered, not just the short-term delivery process.
Did it actually move the needle?
That's the ultimate question. This whole discussion on evaluation models is another clear example of applying project management methodologies, KO5. And it also underscores the importance of your writing outcomes, WO1, because effectively communicating both the successes and the limitations of an evaluation is vital for transparent reporting and driving that continuous improvement cycle in any organization. You need to present a balanced picture.
Okay, let's try to bring this all together now in Section 6 with a practical example. How does an organization actually structure its IT projects in the real world? We've got some great insights here from a real-world IT project management framework, which should show you how these concepts, identification, selection, planning, execution, evaluation, come to life. It's like seeing the actual blueprint for managing successful digital transformation.
Yeah, this is a great example. This framework from an Information Technology Services, ITS organization, provides a really robust structure for managing IT projects systematically. First off, it clearly defines what counts as an ITS PPMO project. That's the Portfolio and Project Management Office. It isn't just any task or small change request. It's defined, classically, as a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. But more specifically, it emphasizes that a project explicitly needs to address documented business issues and risks. It must establish clear and achievable objectives. It needs to adapt to the needs and concerns of various stakeholders. It must clarify requirements up front. And it involves that continual balancing act between competing demands for quality, scope, resources, time, and cost. It's truly a delicate act of juggling multiple constraints.
So not just keeping the lights on, but actual change initiatives.
Exactly. Key characteristics of these projects, as defined in this framework, include relying on shared resources, often staff who are only available on a part-time basis, which requires meticulous coordination and planning. They typically involve cross-functional teamwork, bringing together diverse expertise from different parts of the organization. There's usually inherent uncertainty and a potential for change during execution, so flexibility and change management are crucial. These projects also usually lead to tangible changes in the way the business operates afterwards. And of course, they have specific deadlines and are bound by time and resource constraints.
Okay, can you give some concrete examples of what falls under this?
Sure. Examples listed include things like new technology purchases and their implementations, like rolling out a new business application, maybe a CRM, development of completely new IT service offerings, perhaps implementing ITSM IT service management processes and tools, or deploying Cisco telephony across campus, adding significant new capabilities to existing applications or technology, conducting feasibility studies and proof of concepts for potential future projects, managing requests for proposals, RFPs or RFIs, when looking to expand the technology footprint or functionality significantly, even outsourcing business functions that include major IT systems components, and any spending from a dedicated IT reserve fund.
And importantly, what doesn't count as a project in this context?
Right, that's just as important for clarity. The framework explicitly excludes routine operational tasks, things like standard service provisioning, setting up hosting, voice lines, network ports, regular hardware refreshes for existing services, like replacing servers, PCs, storage on a schedule, minor software upgrades, or routine patch releases, simply increasing capacity for existing systems, like adding more storage, daily problem identification and resolution for operational issues, minor process modifications or database housekeeping, even business process re-engineering efforts if they don't involve significant changes to the underlying technology. This clear distinction is really important because it helps focus the formal project management resources and oversight on the truly strategic, change-oriented initiatives that need it most.
It sounds like a complex symphony managing all these projects, with many instruments needing to play in harmony. So who's conducting this orchestra? Who are the key players in making these ITS projects actually happen successfully?
That's a great analogy, because projects definitely don't manage themselves. They require a very clear structure of roles and responsibilities to ensure accountability, direction, and smooth execution. The ITS framework meticulously defines these roles. At the very top, you typically have the project sponsor. This person is usually at the director level or higher in the business unit requesting the project. They are the project's ultimate champion. They make the initial business case, define the high-level goals, secure the necessary funding and resources, help resolve major conflicts or roadblocks, provide ongoing guidance and oversight, approve key documents like the proposal and charter, and give the final sign-off on completion.
So the buck stops with them.
Essentially, yes. They are the single point of accountability for the project's business success. Then, particularly for large, complex, enterprise-wide projects, you might have a project steering committee. This is an advisory body, often composed of senior stakeholders from affected areas. They provide guidance, review progress, help make major decisions, and recommend initiation, continuance, or changes to baselines.
More eyes on the big, risky ones.
Exactly. Within ITES itself, there's the IT's project owner. Yeah, this is also typically a director level or higher position within the IT organization. They coordinate the project on behalf of IT, help secure the necessary IT resources, people, infrastructure, monitor progress from an IT perspective, and serve as an escalation path within ITES. For projects originating within ITES, the project owner and project sponsor might be the same person. Then you have the project manager, PM. This is the person really on the ground, responsible for the day-to-day management and successful completion of the project. Their duties include staffing the project team, procuring resources, utilizing project management systems, tracking progress, managing risks, the whole 9 yards. Some projects, especially large or state-mandated ones, might even require the PM to be VDI qualified or hold a PMP certification.
The hands-on leader.
All right, and there can be 2 types. An ITES PM coordinating the technical lifecycle, and potentially a sponsor PM coordinating tasks within the functional business office. A crucial role, and one often unsung, is the business analyst, BA. The framework highlights their importance in supporting the entire ITES intake request process, right from the initial submittal through to project approval. They coordinate the detailed analysis, evaluation, and decision-making needed for new technology requests or modifications. They are essential in bridging that critical gap between understanding the business needs and defining the technical solutions.
Translating business needs into technical requirements.
Precisely. And we absolutely mustn't forget the users, the actual end users of the system. They are crucial participants in design sessions, prototyping, and testing activities. Their input is vital for usability and adoption, even though scheduling their time can be a challenge. Without their buy-in and feedback, even a technically perfect system can ultimately fail.
Got to involve the people who will use it.
Essential.
Finally, the Portfolio and Project Management Office, PPMO itself, provides the overarching support structure. They promote consistent practices, might provide trained PMs for projects, offer training and templates, maintain project management tools, and oversee the framework itself to ensure it remains current and aligned with the organization's structure and goals. This comprehensive structure ensures every aspect of project governance is covered, from strategic oversight to daily execution. Now, the PPMO's level of direct involvement isn't the same for every single project. It can vary significantly depending on the project's size, complexity, and strategic importance. This framework categorizes the involvement into 3 distinct levels, ensuring the right amount of oversight is applied. At the lowest level of engagement is aware involvement. In this scenario, the primary project manager is likely from the business unit, or perhaps an ITS manager who isn't part of the formal PPMO. Here, the use of the standard PPMO methodology is encouraged but is not strictly required. ICASE might have some workstream accountability, but maybe not direct oversight, and ITS representatives might or might not regularly participate in project meetings. This is typically for smaller projects with less direct, critical IT infrastructure impact or lower risk.
So a lighter touch.
A much lighter touch, yes. The next level up is involved. In this scenario, a business PM is still often at the center, driving the project from the business side. Again, the PPMO methodology is encouraged, but might not be strictly mandated. However, the key difference here is that ICES now has clear workstream accountability for the technical components, and ICES representatives are expected to be active participants in project meetings. This signifies a greater dependency on and integration with core ICES functions and resources.
Okay, more collaboration needed.
Definitely. Finally, at the highest level of engagement, we have driven. Here, the PPMO is firmly in the center, taking the lead role in managing the project. The use of the standard PPMO methodology is required without exception. The business explicitly recognizes the PPMO's project management accountability. The assigned PPMO project manager drives the activities of the executive steering committee, the core project team, and various workstream activities. If there's an external vendor PM involved, the PPMO PM typically drives and oversees their activities as well. This driven level is reserved for the most critical, high-impact, high-risk, or complex projects, where stringent control, standardized processes, and expert PM guidance are deemed essential for success.
Got it. Different levels for different needs. How do they decide which level applies? How is project complexity assessed?
Good question. The framework uses a relatively simple but effective project size model to help determine the minimum management requirements and, implicitly, the likely PPMO involvement level. This model considers 4 key factors, each given a specific weight, to objectively assess a project's scale and inherent risk. First, cost is weighted at 25%. Projects are categorized as small, if under $250,000, medium, between $250K and $1 million, or large, if over $1 million. Second, duration also carries a 25% weight. Small, less than 6 months, medium, 6 to 12 months, or large, more than 12 months. Third, the project team size contributes 20% to the overall assessment. Small, just 1 team involved, medium, 2 to 4 distinct teams, or large, 5 or more teams, indicating significant cross-functional complexity.
Okay, cost, duration, team size. What's the last factor?
The fourth factor, and interestingly the one given the largest weighting at 30%, is project risk. This is assessed primarily by asking a simple question. Have we, the organization, the PM, the team, done this specific type of project before? A small risk designation means both the assigned project manager and the core team members have prior experience with similar projects. Medium risk implies that either the PM or the team has relevant experience, but not both. Large risk means there's no significant prior experience from either the PM or the team with this type of undertaking. It's new territory.
So novelty equals higher risk.
In this model, yes, significantly. Additionally, other factors can influence the final classification. For instance, is there an internal mandate from senior management driving the project? Or does the project directly address a high-priority organizational risk that's listed in the university's official risk inventory? These can bump up the perceived importance or required oversight. The outcome of this sizing model directly dictates the project's governance level. Typically, small or medium projects are managed at what the framework calls the domain council level. More on that in a sec. Large projects, however, automatically default to the enterprise level of management scrutiny, which comes with more tailored and frequent reporting requirements.
Okay, that makes sense. A structured way to gauge complexity.
Exactly. This whole sizing process clearly demonstrates how basic organizational models, that's KO2, inform real-world project structuring and governance. You're seeing project management methodologies, KO5, in action specifically. how an organization attempts to objectively gauge complexity and set appropriate management requirements based on risk and scale. And think about your writing outcomes, WO1 again. Imagine preparing the initial assessment document that feeds into this sizing model. Clarity, precision, and justification for your ratings are paramount for accurately classifying a project's needs and justifying the level of management attention it requires.
Right, you need to make the case for the size assessment itself. What about the life cycle? How does a project flow through this framework?
This ITASE framework defines a very clear series of phases for a project's lifecycle, each with specific objectives, key deliverables, and formal control points or gates. These phases are guided and overseen by governance bodies called domain councils. Think of domain councils as representing different major areas or portfolios within the organization, like academic systems, administrative systems, infrastructure, etc. They are accountable for project activation within their domain, prioritization, and ongoing progress monitoring. It all starts with intake, phase 0. This is the crucial first step for capturing and reviewing new project requests. The requester, usually from a business unit, submits a standardized form, including initial sponsorship information and preliminary business case materials. A key activity here, performed by the IT Business Analyst ITBA team, is developing a Proposal Collaboration Worksheet, PCW, with input from various stakeholders. They use this to populate concise DC-1 one-pagers which summarize the request for the Governance Council.
So intake is where the initial idea gets formalized and vetted slightly?
Exactly. It's the entry point. Then comes the first major gate, Domain Council 1, DC-1. The purpose of DC-1 is for the relevant council members to review the one-pager, confirm the preliminary project size assessment and its initial prioritization relative to other requests, and formally approve proceeding with project creation and the assignment of a project manager. Or they might decide to defer the request if it's not aligned or resources aren't available.
Okay, the first green light or maybe a red light.
Right. If approved at DC-1, the project officially enters the ITS project inventory and is assigned a PPMO project manager, if PPMO driven. This triggers the initiation, phase 1. The main goal of initiation is to formally authorize the project and define its boundaries. The crucial deliverable here is the project charter. This document rigorously defines the proposed solution description, confirms the project scope, lists key deliverables, outlines initial resource requirements, identifies dependencies, states assumptions, highlights major risks, and provides refined cost and timeline estimates.
The project's constitution, basically.
That's a perfect way to put it. If the charter isn't well defined and agreed upon here, you're almost certainly setting yourself up for scope creep and problems later on. Following initiation is the planning, phase 2. This phase is arguably the most important for project success, though it's sometimes rushed or overlooked when people are eager to start building. Here, a comprehensive project plan is meticulously developed. This includes detailed schedules, resource plans, a finalized budget, defined performance measures, and specific plans for managing change, risks, issues, and communications throughout the project. The phase concludes with a formally sponsor-approved project plan.
So measure twice, cut once, digitally speaking.
You got it. That leads to the next major gate, Domain Council 2, DC-2. At DC-2, the council reviews all the detailed planning documents, scope, cost, schedule, resource needs, governance structure. They reconfirm the project's size and prioritization based on this more detailed information, rank the project within the overall portfolio against other active projects, and finally, schedule its official start date.
Okay, now it's officially on the active roster.
Exactly. Once approved at DC-2, the project moves into delivery, phase 3. This is where, as the framework says, the work gets done. Delivery actually consists of two concurrent sub-phases happening simultaneously. Execution, which is focused on completing the planned tasks and developing the actual project deliverables, and monitoring and control, which involves continuously tracking progress against the plan, managing issues and risks as they arise, handling change requests formally, and managing any necessary procurements.
Execution and oversight happening together.
Right. Throughout the delivery phase, there might be periodic check-ins with the Governance Council, called Domain Council Plus, DC Plus meetings. These are typically triggered if there are significant proposed changes to scope, schedule, or budget, or if major risks need discussion and mitigation strategies approved. DC Plus also handles key approvals like the approval to operate, allowing the system to go live, and later, the approval to close out. Finally, once all deliverables are complete and accepted, the project enters closeout, phase 4. The purpose here is to formally confirm project completion and perform all the necessary administrative activities to wrap things up cleanly. The key deliverable is the project closeout document, which summarizes performance, captures lessons learned, and confirms final handover. The very last step is the Domain Council Final, DCF meeting, which formally confirms project completion and allows the PM to proceed with archiving project records and releasing any remaining resources. This structured life cycle, overseen by the domain councils at key gates, ensures the projects are meticulously managed, tracked, and controlled from initial conception right through to successful completion and handover. And one last point on the real-world context. Frameworks like this don't exist in a vacuum. They must also adhere to external regulations and reporting requirements. For instance, the ITS framework document we looked at explicitly notes that specific types of IT projects may be those involving software development over $100,000 or potentially all IT projects over $1 million, with exceptions for purely instructional or research projects, may require formal state-level reporting. In the context of Virginia, where this framework likely originated, this reporting would typically go to agencies like the Virginia Information Technology Agency, VIT. This ensures transparency, accountability, and compliance with broader governmental IT investment policies and standards. It just shows how internal project management frameworks often need to integrate seamlessly with external policy landscapes.
Wow, what an exploration. That was incredibly detailed. We've really navigated the intricate world of identifying and selecting systems development projects today. From understanding the absolute necessity of aligning with your organization's core mission and competitive strategies, through the detailed mechanics of IS planning, the rigors of project appraisals, and those strategic decision-making models that guide project managers, you've really seen how much goes into getting a project from just a nascent idea to a successful launch, and hopefully evaluating its success beyond that. And walking through that real-world IT project management framework was fascinating. Dissecting the roles, the responsibilities, the different life cycle phases and governance gates, it gives such a tangible look at how these concepts are applied every single day to ensure projects are aligned, viable, and ultimately impactful. So remember that staggering statistic about project failures we started with, 70%. By applying the insights we've shared today, understanding strategy, planning carefully, appraising honestly, deciding rationally, managing diligently, you're not just learning theory from a textbook. You're acquiring the knowledge and the skills to be part of the solution, ensuring your future projects are among the successes, not the statistics. Because the digital world doesn't run on magic, it runs on well-designed, well-managed systems. And you are learning how to make those systems count. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. If you found this valuable, please do like, subscribe, and share our discussion with others who might benefit. Your support really helps us bring more crucial insights like these for your academic journey and your future career growth. And don't forget to check the description below for those additional resources. Okay, final thought for you. Behind every single tap, swipe, and click you make is a system that someone, somewhere designed. Thinking about your own daily life at school, at work, anywhere. What current process could be significantly improved with a thoughtfully designed system? And based on what we discussed today, what's the very first step you'd take to identify and justify making that improvement happen? Until next time, keep building the future one process at a time.